you're looking for an easy vanilla sponge cake recipe, then watch this video. I'm going to show you a really simple way to make a really tasty cake that's reassuringly eggless, but it tastes cracking. And all the ingredients are in the description down below. First of all, take your butter out of the fridge and measure it and cube it and leave it to go soft at room temperature. Then switch your oven on 180 degrees. I'm using two 8-inch cake tins for this recipe. Brush the inside of the cake tins with melted butter or oil so that the cake doesn't stick. You can even use a baking spray, and if you don't have one of these handy little brushes, then simply use a bit of kitchen roll, or my mum always uses the paper from the butter. Grease it all the way around, and a little bit at the bottom as well. Then we're going to take some parchment paper or greaseproof paper to line the bottom. To measure this, simply put the tins on the paper and draw around the outside. Voila, there you go. And now if you cut just on the inside of these circles, you'll find they fit into your cake tins absolutely perfectly. There we go. The last part of preparing your baking tins is gently dusting flour around the edges. This will stick to your butter or oil. The reason you need to do this is because if you didn't, the butter or oil could burn in the oven on the outside of the cake and it wouldn't be such a lovely, soft, spongy edge. Now pour your milk into a large jug or a bowl. I'm using cow's milk, but you can use whatever milk you prefer. Now add your apple cider vinegar. You might find this starts to curdle the milk, but that's absolutely fine. Pop the milk to one side for now and take another large bowl. Then you're going to need your butter that has now softened nicely. It makes it much easier to cream when it's softened rather than hard butter. Now add all of your sugar to the butter and you're going to cream these together. You can do this by using a hand whisk, but it would be much quicker if you've got an electric hand mixer. And if you're really fancy pants, one of those tabletop food processors would really do the job much quicker. If you're using an electric hand mixer, put it on a low setting in a deep bowl, otherwise it's going to go everywhere. And ironically, this looks a little bit like scrambled egg. Stop to scrape down the sides of the bowl and then carry on mixing. It's really important to make sure it's light and creamy for a soft, light sponge cake. Now add your vanilla extract. You can use vanilla essence, but this tends to have a more synthetic vanilla flavour. Vanilla extract is usually a more natural product, whereas vanilla essence is chemically produced, which is why it's cheaper. Mix the vanilla essence into your butter and sugar. Look how light and soft and creamy that looks. Now it's time to add the baking powder to your flour. And we're going to sieve that into our creamed butter and sugar mixture. First a little bit of flour and then some of the milk, which might be a little curdled, but don't worry about that. Now mix that all together. Be careful not to overmix it. Add a little bit more flour and then a little bit more of your milk. If you added your flour all in at once, it would go incredibly lumpy. So this is why we do it a bit at a time. And the reason you don't want to overmix it is it will make your cake go heavy and dense. But equally, you do want to get rid of any lumps. Now it's starting to all come together. That's the last of the flour and the last of the milk. Cream it all together, scrape any bits down from the side, and there you are, lovely, creamy and ready for cooking. Look at that. I could eat it raw. Now it's time to divide your cake mix equally between the two tins that you prepared earlier. They need to be equally divided as best as you can, otherwise they'll cook at different rates in the oven. If you want to be really exact, you could use some scales. Spread the mixture from the inside to the edges to ensure an even rise. give the tins a little shake to get rid of any air bubbles, and now they're ready to put in the oven. They'll take roughly 25 minutes, but ovens really can vary, so check after 20 minutes. If the cake is coming away from the edges of the tin, it could be cooked, but you can use a cocktail stick or a skewer to poke in the middle of the cake. If it comes out with wet batter, it's not cooked. This cake's cooked, so I've let it cool, and now I'm loosening it gently round the edges before flipping it over onto a cooling rack. And voila! Give it a little tap, and there you go. And now you can take off the greaseproof paper. You need to let the cake cool for at least an hour before adding your jam and cream. Now you can add your jam. I'm using a raspberry jam. This would be used in a traditional Victoria sponge cake, but just use your favourite. Spread it evenly with a palette knife or a butter knife. You don't want too much, but you want to be able to taste it. So spread a thin layer all across. Now it's time to make the Chantilly cream, ideally in a cold bowl, but any large bowl will do. Pour in your cream, and you can use a hand whisk, a hand mixer, or one of those tabletop mixers. Obviously, a hand whisk will take you longer. Put this onto a low setting and hold your bowl so it doesn't go everywhere. You want to be mixing until the cream is soft peaks. This took me about 4.5 minutes on a low setting, but you can see the soft peaks just there. If you're brave enough, you can always test the cream by putting the bowl over your head. Yay! It's whipped enough, but you don't want to overly whip the cream, otherwise it will turn to butter. Now add your vanilla extract. And the last ingredient is the icing sugar. We're going to sieve this into the cream, and this makes it into a nice, sweet Chantilly cream. Gently fold it all together. Just look at that. It's all delicious and sweet and light, ready to spread onto your cake. Now you can put as much or as little of the cream as you like. Spread it generously and evenly across the one side of the cake. And now for the slightly tricky bit, you're going to sandwich the two cake halves together to make one delicious cake. Just take one in each hand and gently sandwich them together. There you go. And now dust with some more icing sugar. And as I've got some cream left over, I'm just going to decorate the top. You wouldn't traditionally do this with a Victoria sponge, but hey ho, I've got some raspberries and some cream, so why not? And look at that, the finished cake, a quintessential English tea time treat. Now this tastes cracking. And if you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel so I can make more recipes to share with you. And you can watch some more right here, right now.